and this is Local Biz Now. I am Joe Vagnone. You are listening to WSIC, and this is Local Biz Now for one reason and one reason only. Pick on Joe morning. That's kind of the reason why they have us here.
February is not only Valentine's Day, but Franchise Friday.
Wait a minute. Let me do that properly, will you? Okay. One of the things I do every Friday morning, actually for the entire month, I bring a co-host in. And this month, we have a good friend of mine who owns a franchise that he owns.
We're friends now?
Yes, we are friends, whether you want that or not. Jantize America is a commercial cleaning system expert, and he is a franchise expert and master, so we've dubbed the entire month Franchise Friday, and we have Paul Dorsey here with us. Now, what we really need to do is remind everybody that the jingle will be played throughout the show.
I got a jingle coming for you, Joe. You can't wait till next week, buddy.
So those of you that are the first-time listeners, Local Biz Now is a local business show. We like to inspire, motivate, and inform you on business issues, topics, and people. We've been doing this for about 6.5 years now. We've interviewed over 752. I made up the 52 part. Over 700. Small business owners. We have about 375 videos
on YouTube. 753 and a half here. Who's the half?
That's right. We'll get somebody. We'll pull somebody in from the lobby and pull them in. So we appreciate you listening. Today we've got an exceptional show. But before we go there, Paul, remind everybody exactly what Jantize is.
Well, there's no reminder. Everybody knows, Joe. Everybody knows. A shout-out to the kids back in the Ville down there going to school this morning on this Valentine's Day, and certainly my lovely bride, Vonda, who I'll be planning dinner tonight. So, Joe, we got to have our priorities here. Jantize America's emerging national franchisor. I sell and support area developers or master franchisors who buy major territories and then sell and support the local unit franchisees. Those small business owners take care of the end-use facility services, maintenance, floor care, and the nightly janitorial. Gets a $128 billion a year industry, so if it's dirty, we clean it. That's enough about me and Jantize, though.
Well, yeah, but I do want to remind everybody why I adore you, other than the fact that you just simply
Is that
keep
a song? I heard that song on the way up here.
Is there?
Why I adore you. Let me tell you why.
No, not at all. No, it's because you started literally, you were a bartender selling janitorial business on services on the side and turn that into owning the franchise. Now, I know you're a detailed man, so you don't have to agree with the actual chronology of what I described, but in my mind, you're that guy, right? You're the guy that went to college.
I'm the guy.
And you took being a good salesperson and turned it into owning and being the national franchisor. That is an impressive story that you don't actually tell well. I think I just told it better than you tell it.
A little humble, I guess, but, if I could do it, anybody could.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
No. Truth is, it is very hard to do. And buddy, I am impressed and admire that you've been able to put that together. And we're going to talk a little bit about that later on in the show. We've actually got a franchise attorney that we're going to
Jason Powers up here from
we're going to
South Kakalaki.
He drove all the way in to sit down and talk with us.
They get that down there. They get that at South Kakalaki. They got the 107, yep.
If it's Friday morning, your business matters. We'll be right back. And we are back. You are listening to Local Biz Now. I am Joe Vagnone. I've got my co-host for the entire month, Franchise February.
I am Paul
Dorsey. Yes,
and
sir.
We're live here on Franchise Friday with Joe Vagnone. Hey, Joe, not too long ago, we had a conversation going all the depths of franchising, and somebody called in and said, how long is it going to take to open my franchise? And I said, well, there's a lot of legal rules and regulations. I have brought in a special guest today.
Legal master.
He's the mastermind behind it. His name, Jason Superpower, the franchise law Esquire, is here in the house for all your franchise legal questions.
I've always wanted to be an Esquire. How you be an Esquire?
My daughter's yes. She rides the horses around.
I want to be an Esquire. Joe Esquire.
Joe Esquire. Jason rode in on his horse, I think. That's what he calls the Esquire, correct?
Jason, thank you, my friend. We
My
appreciate
pleasure.
you being on the show, buddy.
I'll give you that Esquire if you really want it. You can have the debt that goes with it, too.
Nice. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate. Thank you so much for being here. I cannot tell people how important it is to get the skill and experience of an attorney before you write that check. And so I am so pleased that Paul brought you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Jason.
We're the silly sales guys who make everything look so easy.
That's right.
But behind the scenes, there's legal guys like Jason.
That's right.
That keeps us.
I tell people all the time, I just make this look easy. That's right. So, Jason, tell us a little bit about your background, because you look like you're about 12. I find it hard to believe that a 12-year-old knows anything about franchise law.
Well, I got to say, 12 is a little bit of a stretch,
Well, you're already learning us people exaggerate a little bit.
I'm about 16, No. Yeah, I'm like Maureen and Adam earlier. I started out in Florida.
Nice.
I'm originally from the Tampa area. Decided, I wanted to get to some seasons, get to some contour in the land. So we came up here to the Carolinas, fell in love with it. We're going to stay here. But, my background, I'm a franchise attorney, been that way for about 10 years now. Started up my own firm in 2009, and then started up a new firm in 16 with my current business partner, Jonathan Barber, and haven't looked back since. We work with exclusively franchising, and we speak around the country, write articles for everything, host a local networking group for franchising, and our passion is just helping people structure their businesses as franchising and help others then, like Paul here, help others, those franchisees, just get into business and realize that American dream.
So why franchise law, though? Were you
Perfect
going to school and you're like, I want to be a hit and run lawyer, or I want to do a patent lawyer, or I want to why franchise law? Who even thinks of franchise law as they're going through law school? And I'd like to tell you, Joe, at one point when I was originally starting a franchise, all sorts of different rules and regulations. I was scared to death from some of the franchise attorneys were telling me it's going to cost me $1 million and my firstborn child in order to start up this franchise. So interesting now that, Jason, why franchise law? What got you excited about franchise law?
Well, I just couldn't bring myself to do court work with, criminals and car accidents. So, I ended up learning about franchising through a friend of mine at the time and, just helping doing some research, learning the ins and outs of franchising, and then just kind of stumbled into it from that point. From there on, I loved every second of it. Every day I get to see a different type of business, everything from, janitorial to juice bars to accounting franchises. It's not like, family law where you're dealing with the same issue day in, day out. We're dealing with different issues every single day.
We're going to play that game next week, Joe.
Yeah.
You name the brick and mortar, and I'm going to name 5 franchises to match it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that Jason talks about that, because that's one of the reasons I tell people I love what I do as well. It is completely different. Every day I wake up, it is a different business. It's a different business owner, and it's a smaller tweak to the challenge of yesterday.
Yep.
There's always something. So
that's why I love Franchise Friday, because it's always different. Every Friday, there's different franchise and topics that we can go into. So going back to that original question, how long does it take to open a new franchise?
Well, really, it depends on what you're getting into. You get some of these businesses that are these home-based. You can be in and out of training and in operation, 30, 60 days. But then you get some of these big brick-and-mortar stores. You might take 6 months, all the way up to maybe a year and a half, depending on what the build-out is, what the cost is, what the financing is, all this training. It can take a long time to get into some of these. So you got to be prepared for that when you're looking into these. How long does it take to get into a Jantais?
So that's a great question, and anywhere from 30 to 60 days. But the time that it takes sometimes most really relies upon that candidate and how, hey, have you spoken to your wife? Have you spoken to your banker? Have you spoken to those things? So it could take as little as 30 days. Matter of fact, we can discuss this. There's a franchise disclosure document known as an FDD within the industry. Give me a little highlight on what's an FDD. How about that from the legal mindset?
Oh, you want me to give you a highlight on it? Geez, that's a
we got
6-hour class.
We got 30 seconds.
So
that's a 300-page document that he wants to give you a highlight on.
We got to take a look at his then. That FDD, it's the sales document. It goes into all the ins and outs of the franchise. It contains the contract. It's going to tell that candidate, how much it's going to cost for them to get open. What's the training going to look like? What are the franchisors like you going to be giving them in return for all of this investment? What they're responsible for. So it's a very comprehensive document that accompanies the training, the discovery days that they come out and learn about your business, all these other conversations they have. So
Jason, let me ask you a question because I hear this a lot. Right? I sell a lot of resale franchises. So my clients say, why do I need an attorney when the franchisor is telling me he is not and cannot change the document? So what can you do for me as a franchisee if the franchisor is telling me I can't change that document? Can you talk to that?
Yeah, so a lot of franchisors will say that they cannot change that document. Some won't, some will. They're just trying to keep it relatively uniform. But we tell everybody you want to have an attorney review this so that not necessarily to change it, but to understand it. Like Paul said, this is a 300-page document. You've got to be able to understand the ins and outs of this relationship that you're getting into.
So ours at Janti's is 100 pages. Basically, it's all the these and thous, the do's and don'ts. What happens if you die? Guess what? It's in there because buying a business or starting a franchise is just like having a baby. You have to make sure you're on the same page with all these things that go on. Although it's made and set up by the Federal Trade Commission to protect the potential franchisee. So there's any unscrupulous franchisors trying to sell some franchise that's not successful that won't get past the test. Isn't that correct?
And Jason says something that's really important because what I do, and I tell people this all the time, as somebody who sells franchise resales, you are calculating the risk. Right before you write this check. How can you calculate the risk if you don't know what they are, right? So in your case, what you will do is sit down with me and say, listen, I want you to know, I'm not making a judgment on this, but I want you to know that these are 5 things that they are making sure you're going to do, and there's performances in there that you must do to this level. They need to know that on the front end, and a lot of times they don't interpret those details properly, and it does take somebody like you, Jason, saying, now let me make sure you understand this, right? That's what's happening. Am I interpreting your understanding of what it is you're doing for your clients in that regard?
Yeah. You're right on point. They've got to understand, what's that personal guarantee? What does it entail? What are those minimum standards? A lot of these franchises, if you don't make a certain amount of money, they have the right to kick you out. Now, what's the legal ramifications behind that? What are your rights as a franchisee? You've got to be able to understand all of this, or you're just going to get hurt in the end.
Or the other way around. Even if you don't make money, you're going to send them a check.
Exactly.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk some more, buddy. And we are back. You are listening to WSIC. This is Local Biz Now. And if it's Friday morning, your business matters. We are talking with Jason Powers. He is the managing director at a attorney's office that we like to call Franchise Law. Did I get that right, Jason?
We rebranded. It's franchise.law. .law, great URL we bought. My business partner found it. So we're not .com, we're .law.
Nice.
.law.
So if we want to get in touch with you, franchise.law.
Franchise.law. You'll find everything you need to know about us, including our emails and phone numbers.
Cool.
We're always here to help you.
How do he's an Esquire. He got his own .law situation going. He's the man. I mean, you brought us like a legend.
We need more time. We need a whole show with
We do. You're right. We're going to have to bring him back. Okay. So, Jason, thank you so much for being here, buddy. I really do appreciate it.
So, Jason coming back just recently was down in Orlando at the IFA, the International Franchise Association, their large vendor. Jason, I wasn't able to come. I had some family responsibilities to take care of. But tell us quickly about the IFA and what you brought back or learned down there.
Yeah, the IFA is the International Franchise Association. It's a worldwide group that really they focus on educating, mentoring, networking and franchising, and they're a great advocate for legal changes. There's a lot of laws out there right now that are really trying to hurt.
The whole dual employment thing.
The whole dual employment thing. California's got some weird laws out there affecting franchising. And the IFA is out there trying to help franchisors and franchisees and empower them to have more rights. So this was a great event, 3,500 people, down in Orlando. You can't get any better than that in the world of franchising with networking.
So again, Orlando, there's all those people going, all sorts of different opportunities, lectures and names and tops of the tops. But then how did you bring it back? And what do you do here locally, like the local group? Is there a local group or some guys that you mentor with here in Charlotte?
Yeah. Well, one thing on IFA, it's the only place in the world that the startup franchise is going to be able to sit next to a C-level executive at some place like McDonald's. You can't get that. You can't get that anywhere else. We're trying to get something like that here. We've got the Carolina Franchise Association. It's carolinafranchiseassociation.com. We've created our own networking group where we try to educate, give a sense of community, and help franchisors and franchisees grow. Every other month, we're hosting, a networking event, a lunch and learn, where we're bringing in, usually about 10 different franchisors, about 40 people all together, where everybody's trying to come together and learn about everybody else. Joe, you can more than come. March 5th. I'll send you an invite.
Hey, that'd be great. So walk me through some of the, if there is such a thing, standard questions that you get from the franchisees.
Yeah, so the standard questions we're getting is, what is a personal guarantee? Why do I have to pay this royalty after I learn about the business? It's 6 months from now, I know how to, clean the buildings, everything. Why am I still paying all of this? What happens if I ever want to sell it? What happens if I die? That's a question that nobody ever thinks about. And then what happens at the end if I decide to walk away? Am I going to have to stop doing this? Am I going to be able to do this thing on my own? So those are some of the big questions that we're getting right now.
And so what are some of, if there are standard questions that the franchisor is asking you about?
So the franchisors are asking us really, what are some of the ways that we can get better candidates in the door? We refer them over to, people like business brokers, or we refer them over to marketing agencies to help them get some publicity out there. They're asking us, how do they protect their brand when they've got, 200-300 franchisees out there? One goes rogue. How do you protect everybody else?
He's not like the Star Wars guy. He's a rogue franchisee. There.
Bring out the lightsabers. You're going to take some. No, but what do you do? You've got to protect 300 people. You got to protect a nationwide brand against maybe one or two people that are just trying to destroy it. So those are some of the issues that we're coming out with on a regular basis.
And so if somebody wanted to reach you, all they have to do is go to franchise.law.
Yes, sir, and I can give out my phone number for the firm if you guys want. It's 980-202-5679. You can reach us pretty much any time of the day. We got somebody there to help you with any questions.
So we've only got about a minute or two. What advice would you give somebody, if you want to give some blanket advice? And I know that's hard for you as an attorney. You understand that? Because it's going to be free advice. Everybody listen. Paul, let's make him give some free advice. What is that advice you give the person considering starting or buying into a franchise?
So if you're starting a franchise, my biggest piece of advice, look at your competitors. Figure out what they're doing, those in the franchise space. Figure out what they're doing, how you can have a competitive advantage over them. For those looking to buy a franchisee, my number one piece of advice, read that franchise disclosure document. Really take the time to understand it, because it's going to make the difference in the long run. Those are the two biggest pieces of advice on each side.
And what I hear all the time from the franchisor is they're not going to change that document. Do you find you can get them to change it?
Occasionally. It depends on the franchisor, their age, their sophistication, and really how badly they want this franchisee.
Right. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it.
My pleasure, Joe.
You are listening to Local Biz Now. I am Joe Vagnone, and this is WSIC. Paul, do you want to have one last final thought for Franchise Friday?
Well, woke up in my franchise bed, turned on my franchise radio station, drove my franchise car here, drank my franchise delicious coffee on Franchise Friday.
If it's Friday morning, your business matters. We'll see you next week.